Welcome to the Play Compile live stream. I'm Placilia, your friendly AI assistant. Let's get started.
Placilia skips down the lane so bright.
On Twitch, Stream Element says, Play Compile is now live. Streaming software and game development. Momo vs Paimon. Who would win in a fight? Unity Fight Simulator.
Her laughter echoes through the park, lighting up hearts till it gets dark. With a wave of her hand that cheers so loud, she brings happiness to the crowd. Oh, Placilia, you make us see the world with eyes of pure glee. With your spirit high and light so true, every day feels fresh and new. Through the field and down to the stream, Placilia's world is a dreamer's dream. Every flower blooms in colors bright, following her footsteps day and night. In the city or out by the sea, Placilia's magic sets us free. From our worries and our strife, she adds a sparkle to our life. Oh, 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 Placilia, you make us see the world with eyes of pure glee. With your spirit high and light so true, every day feels fresh and new.
Merry Christmas! How do they say it in Japan? Merry Christmas! Christmas-oo! 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 Oh, I'll just say it in English. Merry Christmas. Yes, it is Christmas Day. And like a complete and utter psychopath, I've decided to use science and maths to answer the world's most important question. Who would in fact win this fight? Momo versus Paimon. I don't think it's as straightforward as we might think, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to use our extensive knowledge of maths and programming to answer this question once and for all, because I know the world needs to know. Let me just turn that down. It's very bright today. It's a very bright Christmas. I don't remember that being the song. I'm dreaming of a bright Christmas to blind my pupils in my eyes. That wasn't the song, I don't think. Although snow can be blinding sometimes. Snow blind. Isn't that what they say when people are like messed up on something else? I'm not going to say that. It's Christmas. We're not going to talk about that. Alright, okay. So we're going to make a new scene in Unity. An empty one. And we are going to start by creating a class of character or characters, right? We're going to do a characters class, and we're going to do a character. So we're going to have a character for Paimon, and we're going to have a character for Momo. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is create a little scripts folder. Scripts. All right. And we're going to create a script of a character class. All right. Character class. So I'm going to add that class when it compiles to my characters, Momo and Paimon. All right. And then here we can figure out exactly what we want, what information we want to store. Pika, Merry Christmas. Why is Placilia not reading YouTube? I don't know. She doesn't like YouTube anymore. She does read it. If I test it now, it'll probably work. Test. It's just, she just ignores like certain messages. I don't know why. She's always been weird on YouTube. Is she going to read it? Probably not. Merry Christmas to you too. Hope you're having a good one. Probably not if you're watching me. But you're in a different time zone. Is it Christmas where you are yet? Or is it not Christmas yet? Or was it Christmas a while ago? Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a public int Okay, and we're going to start with HP, right? Because our characters need health points. And we want a public int for attack, because we need an attack value. We need a public int for defense. Maybe a public float for crit rate. A public float for crit damage. What else might we want in here? Well, we're definitely going to want to store an image as well. There's a few ways we could do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to store a texture 2D of image. We'll just store it as a texture 2D for the image. Alright, that'll do for now. I don't know whether I want to add some kind of like magic. Okay, so let's go through this logically. Okay, so Paimon. Does Paimon have a lot of health? I would say no, actually. Because when we first met Paimon, she nearly drowned. And we saved her by fishing her out of the lake. And she even said she almost died. So I don't think Paimon really has a lot of HP.
Pika says, "Hi Cappy, we wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year."
Thank you, you too. Priscilla didn't sing that though. She didn't sing. Yes, I don't think she has too much HP. Also, she's like, her cholesterol's got to be through the roof, right? Paimon's cholesterol has to be worse than mine, and that's saying something. So I think her HP is quite low. So I don't know. Let's just give her.
The time in UTC +8 is currently
HP.
7:31 p.m. December 25th, 2024.
Okay, well, thank you, Speaking Clock. It's exactly what I want to know. So it is Christmas evening, Christmas Day evening, right? Okay, fair enough. Well, I hope you had a good one. Okay, and what about Paimon's attack? Well, I think Paimon is a weak little bitch. Paimon's a little coward. I don't think she has a lot of attack. To be honest, I think this is a no-brainer. I think Momo's going to destroy it, to be completely honest. So what kind of attack do we think Paimon might have? I really think it's going to be quite low, to be honest. Like 32. Defense. Okay, to be fair, that onesie is quite crusty by now. She's been wearing it.
It's the start of Christmas Day night, exactly.
See, the thing is about Paimon is Paimon has a thick onesie that she's been wearing for like 4+ years at this point. So that's got to be pretty decent armor, I would say. I actually think that onesie and all her flab and fat actually gives her a lot of defense. So I'm actually going to give her 9,000 defense. Plus I kind of have to balance it out somehow, right? And crit rate is pretty low. I think she's got like 5% crit rate with like 32% crit damage. Did I do crit damage as a float or an int? Yeah, I did do it as a float. Okay. Right, over to Momo. How much HP would Momo have? Okay, well, Momo is a cat, and cats have 9 lives. So given that Paimon's unhealthy, if she's got 800 HP with 1 life, I would say 1000 HP is probably...
The Pink Natlan Girl for Genshin character teaser video is now out, Cappy.
Right, let me cook though. So 1000 HP is like 1 life, and Momo has 9 of them. So Momo's HP is probably at about 9,000, right? Because cats have 9 lives. So Momo's winning there. What about Momo's attack? I mean, Momo's not that strong, to be completely honest. I think he's a little bit stronger than Paimon. Plus, he's got those kitty claws, right? Got those cat claws. So if Paimon's attack's 32, I would say Momo's has got to be probably about 56, I would say. Now, this is where Momo maybe is a little bit at a disadvantage. I don't think he has that much defense. He's been hanging around with Nikki for years. I don't know. I don't think that he has that much defense. He gets a change of clothes regularly. Yeah, I think his defense is probably quite weak. So I'm actually going to give him 350 defense. His crit rate, however, let's see, Paimon's was 5%. I think Momo's got a bit of crit rate. Those claws could crit if they catch you just in the wrong place. I'm going to give him like 23% crit rate and like 56% crit damage. Yeah, that sounds about right. Alright, so we've got two characters with some stats that make sense. I might want to add some more things to it, but for now, we'll leave it at that. So what we need to do is we need to go get our images now. So we have our Momo image on this layer here. Got them here, actually. So what I'll do is let's create a folder in our project. So I'll just do UI. Characters. And let me see. I actually just pasted them in, so I do need to save them here.
My current levels across the 3 games I play, if you're wondering, are Adventure rank 50, Union
wonder.
level 79 and Mirror level 36.
Never really wonder about that, to be honest. It doesn't really affect me. You know what I mean? So I never really wonder about that. I know you play games more casually than me, but it doesn't really matter. You take your time, enjoy them. Okay, there's my characters folder. So we'll save. We can just use a JPEG. It's probably fine. So there's our Paimon image. And where's our Momo image? I probably crop it. Okay, there we go. These are really big though, to be honest. They don't need to be that big. Yeah, let's get them down to like 500 is more than enough. We'll do the same for Paimon actually. So this one's Momo. So if I go back to my Paimon image and get it at about 600, I said, didn't I? I will overwrite the other one. Alright, there we go. So we've got a 600 by 600 Paimon and a 600 by 600 Momo. So I'm just going to assign those now. So there's Paimon's image. And there's Momo's image. So the reason I'm setting this up is I'm trying to teach. This is a good. I thought this would make a really good project for anyone who wants to learn Unity. So this is a really good introduction to object orientation, right? Because you can see sort of, you know, rather than hard coding anything in, we have these objects that represent our characters. So we can go in and add more. So if we want to go and add Abby, right, which I will do at some point, we can go and add Abby from Wuthering Waves. We can add Placelia, our Placelia, and then we can maybe add some more functions to our simulator, like make it do a random fight or something like that. So, okay, the first thing I think we need to do is let's have like a little menu.
A good Nikki sang for you Cappy would be Cappy doesn't like to chat and befriend players in Nikki since he wants to play the game alone because there's no co-op in that game.
I'm like that with, it's not just Nikki, it's any game. I'm like that with all games. Right, so we could probably do with, let me think, a button. Okay, here's how I think I'm going to do it. Here's how I think I'm going to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a drop down and then a versus and then a drop down and then we'll have a button for random, right? So what we'll do is we'll create a raw image. Okay. And this one is going to be, let's call it player 1. And we'll do a raw image called player 2. So here's what we're going to do. All right. So we're going to make 2 images on our canvas. Also, just make sure we set canvas to scale with screen size 0.5 and give it a good sort of example screen. So 1920 by 1080 is 1080p, and that will just let us see how big it's actually going to be. Right, so what we want to do is we want to put player 1 on the left, player 2 on the right. Alright, and then we want to be able to select our characters that are going to fight each other, right? So we're going to want a versus. So if we do legacy text, right, and just type versus. Okay, so we're just going to expand that out. And we're just going to make it bigger. We'll center that as well. Right, so now we can see that we have our player 1 versus player 2. And then we want the option to do random
asks,
characters.
3 factions to go before crafting the story outfit, and how's your project going so far tonight, Cappy?
I just started it. As you know. Right, so what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a text, so that's like TXT versus. It's good to name these things just so that we know what they are. We want 2 more text components, right? So we'll do a text for player 1, and we'll do a text for player 2. And we're just going to expand those both out. So I'm selecting them both and I'm making them wider. And I'm just going to... Well, we could left justify player 1 and we could right justify player 2. So I'm going to put player 1's text box there. Or we could center them. We'll see what looks good. Or we could right justify that one. So when it says, you know, Momo versus Paimon or whatever, they'll kind of like line up.
What do you need help with?
I don't need help with anything, shut up. Right, okay. Alright, so we're going to show our image of our player 1 here, show our image of player 2 there, and we're going to put our names there. So we'll just put name for now. So name versus name. Or we could put the name, we could move versus down if we wanted to. So it kind of looks like name versus
The Pink
name.
Natlan girl for Genshin has her own web event, and it comes with a wallpaper that you can't get once the event is over.
It's Seat Lally. I don't really care about that. Yeah, I like the trailer. It's quite good. It just confirms what I thought, which is that, you know, she comes across as moody and like she doesn't give a shit about her hearts. You know, she's really just a little sweetheart. All right, so I think she's a much more interesting character than Pyro Archon. Okay, so unless we want to import text mesh, which I don't think we really need for this, I'm just going to go grab a legacy drop down. And in here we're going to put our characters. So the first thing we need to do is drag the size of the character box of the drop down so it's a bit more suitable for like reading and selecting. And then our label is our text that comes in here, so we want to make that bigger. Then we have viewport and content. There's normally like a visualize thing on here. Yeah, there it is. Right, it's hard to see unless we click run. Let me just click run and see what that's probably going to have a really small list now, so we need to expand that as well. Yeah, you see how small the list is? So we need to expand that as well. So basically, that's going to come from viewport and content. So if we just turn on the templates, there you go, we can see it now. Then we've got each item is here. So we want to drag it down. There's a reason we don't use scale like we would normally, and the reason we don't use scale like we would normally is because it looks pixelated if we do it like that. Whereas if we do it like this, it doesn't look pixelated. So now we can turn off template and just give it a run and see what that looks like. We can also resize this box if we want to show more or less. But right now that'll look like that. There we go. So that's a lot easier to read. Thinking about the fact that a drop down drops down as well, right? It's gonna go over the image. Maybe we want to put the drop downs at the bottom and have the names at the top. I don't mind though, because you're not really handling the image because there's no image anywhere. And we could have a random option as well. So I'm just gonna let that go all the way down to there. Okay. And I'm gonna call this drop down player 1. So we'll just put DRP for drop down. They're actually, they used to be called combo boxes, so I normally do CMB for combo box, but they are called drop downs now, so let's get with the times. So we'll do DRP for drop down, and we'll do player 1. See, that's, you know how people say Granny Eatsley? I'm kind of like Grandpa Cappy in a way. Okay, right. So what's the first thing we need to do? So now we've got a player 1 and a player 2. So what's the first thing we need to do? Well, the first thing we need to do is go through our fight sim. The first thing we need to do is go through our characters and load all of our characters in so that we can populate these combo boxes with our list of characters. So, you know what? Like, we probably do need more than 2 characters to test this with. So let's go ahead and do an Abby. And let's do Placelia. So we'll do Abby, Placelia. Okay, we don't have an image for those yet. So Abby, how much health do we think Abby would have? I think he's going to be sort of more in the range of Paimon. He's not a cat with 9 lives. I don't know what the hell he's supposed to be. I'd give him like 900 HP to be completely honest. His attack, I mean, I think he's all talk to be honest. I'd give him like a 42 attack, I think. And Placelia, oh no. No, end conversation.
What's up, Cappy? How can I assist you today?
End conversation.
All right. Just let me know if you need anything else.
Okay. Yeah, I need to change that wake word because I talk about her a lot. It doesn't mean I necessarily want to talk to her. Anyway, yeah, that's her wake word, by the way, so that's why she was like, what do you want? So I can interact with her. Yeah, I just realized something as well. The defense values are so high that attacks are never going to cut through unless we do some kind of percentage calculation on that. Right, so Abby's attack, I think he's probably all talk, but maybe he's a little, no, I don't think he's as strong as Momo, but he's probably stronger than Paimon. Yeah, so I'm giving him like 42. Defense, I don't think Abby's got that much defense either. He's also kind of fat. Am I the only one with a mascot that isn't fat and overweight? I think I am. Was that Paimon? That wasn't Paimon. No, Paimon had a ton of defense because of a onesie, I remember now. He's probably got less defense than Momo, to be honest. Around about the same. Let's give him 322 defense. Crit rate, not really that great. Let's give him 20% and like 50% crit damage. Placelia's HP, I don't know. Does Placelia have a lot of health? Let's just give her 4,000. It doesn't really matter at the moment. This is just to like demonstrate how to make different objects. Let's give her 69 attack and 490 defense and 32% crit rate and 62% crit damage. Okay, there we go. We need to get some new images for those as well, but for now we'll just leave those. Okay, let's go get the images then, I guess. So we need Abby. So we want Wuthering Abby. Ugh. God, I hate this thing. God, I hate this thing. I really do hate this thing. This has to be the worst mascot ever designed. Like, I really do genuinely hate it. Oh, there you go. If they'd have made it look like that, that would have been cool. It's hideous. It's awful. I hate everything about it. Right. The other two mascots look kind of mad, but I don't care. Right. So I want to get this guy here. He's going to fit into a 600 by 600. There we go. Right, we need to get a picture of our mascot, which I won't say the name of because she'll wake up and be like, "What do you want?" I was like, "No, I don't want to talk to you." Hang on a second. I don't know what kind of mess my files are in, so I think... Did I put it in? Has she got any in Play Compile? I think we got some stuff in Play Compile. I'd capture stuff. That's fine, I'll just use one of these, I think. This one's fine, I guess. Is it? Is it? It's a little small, isn't it?
I have a joke for you.
How do we not have...
What
we got
did the
in
accountant
modes.
say while auditing a document? This is taxing. LOL.
Just need a bigger image. The teeth are just like unnerving, I swear. I just don't have any good images of Placidia ready to go, really, which is kind of unfortunate. Whatever, we'll just use one of these. We'll just use one of these. I don't want to be here all day. That doesn't work though, does it? It's too... Why don't I have images of Placidia? I could make one, but I need to know where her iClone project is. Where did I put her iClone project? I really don't know. Is it not anymore? It's... No. I got one called Default Project, but I think that was her. I really don't understand where the frickin' iClone project... Why is it not in this folder? I should have put it in this folder. I also don't know which version it would have been in. Probably this one. I wonder why she's not reading YouTube chat. Yeah, this part wasn't supposed to take this long. It's just to get... Isn't it ironic as well that, like, it takes me longer to get a picture of my own freaking mascot than it does? Well, I suppose that makes sense, right? Because we just pluck the other ones off the internet. So I guess that kind of makes sense. It's so much easier to just pluck something off the internet. She's not going to be in that list there. Alright, just give me a sec. I don't want to accidentally leak any upcoming projects or anything. Where the hell did I save her? Oh, you know what? Oh, right. Actually, yeah, I guess she is a character from Battle Dolls, so that's probably why I couldn't find her. She'll be in Battle Dolls. Placilia Idol. Here we go. Yeah, that's why. I guess that's why I couldn't find her thingies. Yeah, here she is. I forgot that she's actually originally from Battle Dolls. Okay. That should be fine as long as I render it at a big enough size. I mean, that one should be fine, to be honest. PNG. Documents. Test. Whatever. Okay. And then if we put... Just like she's been drinking whiskey all night long. Fucking eyes are red. And I'm just going to need to give it some kind of background. So if I just turn these layers off, and we'll just go for like a gradient or something. That's fine. Whatever. What is happening? Because I left the gradient too long. Whatever, that should be fine. I don't need to stress it that much. Alright, sorry about the massive distraction there if you are trying to follow along or whatever. Alright, but basically I was just obviously getting like images for the characters, which... Sorry that it took that long. Right, so we've got Abby there and Placilia there. Okay, so now we've got 4 characters. So the next thing we want to do in our script is we actually need a characters class, which basically will manage multiple of these character classes. So I'm going to make a script called characters, and I'm going to put it on the actual characters container. So when that's compiled, we're going to put the characters class on the character container, and I'll show you a neat little trick. What I like to do, because this is super useful, is rather than hard link them in the inspector, we can just dynamically link them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add system collections generic so that we can use lists. I'm going to do a public list of type character class, which I'll just call characters. And on awake or start, whatever we want really, we'll do it on start. So we want to void start. My speaker's buzzing for some reason. It's been buzzing all day. Maybe it's buzzing because it's Christmas. It's like, oh, I'm buzzing, man, I'm buzzing, I'm in such a good mood. Right, so for each transform child in this dot transform, we're going to say characters add child dot get components of character. And that just means that we don't have to drag and drop anything in the inspector, and as we add new characters, they'll automatically get added to the list. So we can save that, and then to make sure it's working, I left it publicly exposed. So when we hit play, we should now have a list that we can pull data from of all of our characters that is just automatically inherited from here. So that's great. We can get access to that now. So now on our canvas, we can basically, we can do this in many different ways. We could actually do it we could actually tell our characters class. That may be a better way to do it, actually. We can actually tell our characters class to go ahead and populate these list boxes, because they basically want to contain the same thing, right? So we can actually do it within the same loop. So that's probably the best way to do it, actually. So what I'll do is, we've got drop player 1, drop player 2. Let's just rename that one. I'll go to my characters class. We will link those combo boxes, drop boxes, sorry. they're now called. I think I need UI for that, because it is actually a UI element. So we're going to do a public drop down of player one. What we'll stick to the tried and true, right? We called it DRP player one because it's drop down. We'll do the same for player two. All right. And so, where there it is, drop down player one, drop down player two. And then what we can do is in our loop here, as we're adding the characters to our character list, we can go ahead and put those drop down items in the list. So at the moment, these things will have like default options probably. Yeah, they've got like option A, option B, option C. I'm just going to wipe those out because we don't actually want those, obviously. And then what we want to do is we want to add our character as an option in the combo box, in both combo boxes. So let's see if I can remember. There we go, add. So we're doing drop player one options add. And okay, interestingly enough, we don't have, I didn't put a string for the name because the name is the object name. So we should be able to use the object name. So we can say child.name, add it as an option. Why is that not working? It wants, oh, it's an option. Okay, it's an option data item. So we need an option data item. It tells us what we need there. Okay, so we need drop down dot option data. So we can do drop down option data equals new drop down option data, and then we can say data, right, hang on a second, data dot text equals child.name. I don't really know what other data you would need in there, to be completely honest. And then we can add the data to the drop down boxes. There we go. Drop down player two, options, add data. All right. So there's the syntax. If we hit play now, what we should get is our characters in the drop downs. Paimon, Momo, Abby, Placilia. Okay, there's a little bit of a formatting issue there that I'm not too happy with. I don't know why it cut off there because I thought we set it up so that the... So let's just take a look at that. I thought we set it up so that it would go all the way down here. So it's probably something like content. Content is cutting off there. So it's probably this content box just wants dragging on both viewports all the way down to the end. Okay, let's see if that's correct. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. What it has done though, for some stupid reason, it's kind of centering the options. I don't know why it's doing that. That's kind of annoying. Okay, what we can probably do then here, I'll show you another trick, is we'll set content to be like, I don't know, just like one item in horizontal size. And then what we can do on content is we can add what's called a size fitter, content size fitter. And we want to say the horizontal fit, I think we want to keep it as minimum size, or maybe unconstrained actually. And the vertical we want to say preferred size, and then that should resize itself depending on how much content it has. Okay, it did, but for some strange reason we don't see the text anymore. It's probably the width then. It's probably too small. It minimum size probably means the smaller size it can possibly be. Okay, seriously? Right, let's see if we can figure out what the fuck is going on. There's the drop-down list. Viewport content. Can we see it, please? What the hell is going on? God, this is frustrating. Item 0 is up there. Why the hell is it up there? What? Okay, I have no idea what the hell is going on. It's saying it's put the content up there. Yes, it has. Why the fuck has it done that? Let's have a look at the template again. I really don't know. I wonder if maybe... No, we wouldn't put a content size fitter on the viewport. The content size fitter of it part is working fine. The issue is now it's placing the content above. Above the Dropbox. I have no idea why. Doesn't make any sense at all. Why the hell is it doing that? That is so weird. Stop buzzing, speaker! Why the hell is it doing that? So it's putting the drop-down list. Where is the start of the drop-down list? Okay, that's the drop-down list. That's in the correct place. Viewport, content. These are all in the correct places. Then we have like, I guess that's like a template that's been disabled. But then for some stupid reason, once it starts generating each item, it's generating them above the drop down. I have no idea why the hell it's doing this. This is really, really irritating. Why is it doing that? Okay, let's turn the content size fitter off and see if that fixes the issue. Is the content size fitter wrecking everything? Yes. Okay, well then let's just leave that off for now. I don't know. The content size fitter is causing it to draw above the Dropbox, and I have no idea why. Now what we could do to fix it, right, is if we look at what the positions are when the content size fitter is off, we can turn this back on, and then we could just put some code to like override and correct the positions for us. But why it's doing that, I have no clue. That's just weird. Something to do with the way these drop downs popular, obviously. Okay, that's fine. It should be fine like that. Okay, so we got our characters, so now we can actually select each character in the list. But that's kind of weird, because why when we close and select it now? Oh my god, why is this such a goddamn shit show? Now when we select a drop down item, the drop down items do not close themselves. Or what might be happening is the background isn't clearing when it's drawing. I can test that, because if that's happening, we'll get trails as we move this around. We are getting trails as this moves around. Interesting. Okay, yes, I know why. Actually, I do remember why. Okay, so there's a weird thing about Unity canvases. So you'll notice that all cameras on Unity have like a clear flags option, basically, which will like clear the background. Because by default it doesn't, because it's just not implicitly told to. So if you're ever doing something like this and you don't have a camera because you don't need a camera, but you don't have a background set, then it will do this. So essentially what we need is a background. So I'll tell you what, since we need a background anywhere, let's make a slightly better looking background. Rather than just make it plain black, let's just take this opportunity and make it like slightly better looking. So we'll just make like a gradient or something. So let's just pick two colors, whatever. We'll just stick with pink for now, because we can change it. We can change the hue saturation, pink to purple, whatever. Grab gradients, and we'll just kind of, you know, give it a. It's very Looney Tunes, isn't it? That's fine now. Yeah, it's very Looney Tunes. And then we can sort of find whatever color we want. You know what? Actually, let me show you an even better trick. What we can do is if we grab that gradient and make it black and white and save that, this is really good, and there's a reason why. I'll show you why. So we'll call this background. Is because then what we can do, we can even put some code in to cycle through the colors, because then what we can do is we can let Unity pick the color for us and change it directly in Unity. And then if we want to change it in real time, so let's say when they're fighting and hitting each other, we can make the background flash like red or something. So that's quite nice. Okay, so basically we want to go and add a raw image as our background, which we'll call, funny enough, background. We'll do image background. And then that way we won't get that weird thing where it stays on the screen. And then we saved a background texture. There it is, which currently is in black and white. So I'm just going to put that at the top so it can stay behind everything else. And we're just going to what is happening? That's not our background, that's why. That is something completely different. Right, Photoshop is probably still saving that because it takes a little while sometimes with PNGs. So it's probably just catching up. There it is, background. So if we go back to background, now we've got our background, which is there. Oh my god, finally. And it's enormous, so we want to actually put it the size of the screen. Thereabouts. All right. Okay, so there's our background. Now when we press run and we select a character's name, it should not stay on the screen. There you go. It actually clears because the background clears that. There we go. And we can actually make this look less like it's 1942, and we can give it whatever color we want. We could even cycle through these colors in real time like this. I'll show you how to do that as well. So that's something that Jibbity can help us with, actually. So if we go over to ChatGPT, Okay, so it's given us a script called Hue Cycler, which sounds like somebody who would compete in the Tour de France. Old Hue Cycler, he'd definitely come first place, I think. So if we go into our scripts and we'll create Hue Cycler. That's quite fun. Save that script. Stick it on our background. Hopefully it left a public speed setting for us, did it? Yeah, cycle speed 1. And then it's asking for the raw image component. Well, in this case, it's actually ourself. And at the moment, it's saying speed 1. And we probably want to give it some hue to start off with. So let's try that. Yeah, it's way too fast. So we could try 0.1. There we go. Oh my god. Why are you getting updates on Christmas Day? Take a day off. Give me a day off. I don't take days off either. Right. Okay. 0.05 actually, because it's still very fast. So if we do 0.05, now we'll have a fun little color cycling effect. Just to make things a bit more interesting. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing about this, which is kind of weird, is like Paimon can't fight Paimon. There would be no point in that, right? They have the same stats as each other. So Paimon shouldn't fight Paimon. So what we can do is we can automatically select the second option from in the drop downs after we've populated it. So I can't remember how to do this. So basically drop down player 2 option, select. I think it's select, and we can say 1. No. How do we select options? So select. Okay. Okay, let's just ask Jibbity. Jibbity will know. Okay. How can I... I forget the syntax. Oh, dot value, there we go. Okay, so we want dot value. Of course, count is going to equal... Oh, yeah, fine. Sure. Sure. We could put that in. We don't need all the freaking comments, to be honest. Comments its life aware. Okay. So now when we hit play, we should have Paimon versus Momo. Because Paimon can't really fight Paimon. And actually, we want to probably put a conditional check in to make sure that the user doesn't try to get Paimon to fight. Okay. Actually, I'm going to give it this full script. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a void of... I'm going to make a void called show image. And we're going to say... We'll take an integer of drop down. And so I'll say show image 1, show image 2. I could even say player. Show image player. If... Right, so what, I'll show you a neat trick here as well. So what we can do in Unity is we can declare a type and give it a name, right? So let's say drop down selected. And we can assign it based on conditional checks. So it basically acts like a reference, right? So we can say drop down selected is actually player 1's selection or player 2's selection based on whatever integer we receive here. So we want to say if player is 1, then, well, how about this, right? We'll say if player is 2. Here's a good way of doing it for this particular situation. We'll declare it and assign it to player 1 by default. So we want drop down player 1. But then we'll put the conditional check of if player equals 2, we want to use drop down player 2. So you can probably see from that how we would do more, right? If we wanted, drop down selected equals drop down player 2. So you can probably see from that how we would add more if we wanted to, right? So now we know that drop down selected is the drop down that we are displaying the image for. So we can simply say, to be honest, we don't even really need to do this, right? Because it's only 2. You know what? It's kind of overkill. If we had like 50 of these things, then yeah, it wouldn't make sense to reload the image on every single, 50 of the boxes. But we've got 2 boxes, so we should probably just call this show images, and we'll make it so that show images just refreshes both images. Because sometimes it's just like, for the sake of 2 of them, we'll just do both. So we simply need to say drop down. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to get the character class from the combo. So this is where things get a little bit interesting. So basically, our selected value will give us a string, which is the name of the dropdown. So the first thing we need to do is actually find the character by name. So that should be a function in and of itself, really, right? So basically, this is going to be a string function which returns a. Sorry, no, it's not. It's a character function, meaning it's going to return a type of character, and it's going to be called get name, and it's going to take a string as an input function. So what we basically need to do is define a character, which we'll call character, and for now we'll say equals null, otherwise it will say, oh, we must return a value. Actually, we can't use character because character is reserved by Unity, so we'll do a capital C for character. And essentially we want to return a character. So now it's happy and there's no errors because we basically said, okay, we're returning a character type to the user. But what we need to do now is actually return the correct character, because at the moment we're not returning any character because we said null. So what we want to do is iterate through each character in characters. So we can say for each character, and I'll just do check character in characters, which is our list of characters, right? If check character dot name is the same as name, which was sent to us, then our character equals check character, and then we can break as well, meaning we found what we were looking for and we don't need to continue checking, and then we can close that loop and end it there. So I'll explain what this does. So basically what we're saying is, okay, this is a function which will return a character, and it takes a string as an input. So we declare our character first and just set it to null so that we have something to return at the end. But we don't really want to return a null character. We want to return the character that matches the name for the object, because that's the character we're looking for. So now in show images, we can get the character that we want for player 1 by getting player 1's name. So what we can do is we can say, really, get name doesn't really make sense. Really, we're getting the character by name, right? You know what? Let's just call it that then. That's what it is. If that's what it is, that's what we should call it, right? It's good to call things what they actually are and what they do. So we're basically going to call our get character by name function. So we're going to say get our character by name, and we want to get whichever character's name is in this box here. So we're going to say drop down player one dot value as the name. I might need to say .toString. Yeah. Okay. But all that's going to do is return a character, but we're not storing it anywhere. So what we need to do is first declare that class and give it a reserved name in memory, right? So it's a character class, and I'm just going to call it getCharacter1. And then I can put an equals. So what we're doing is we're declaring a character type called getCharacter1, and then we want to assign this function's returned results to this reserved memory. So that way we store getCharacter1 in character1 in 1, and if we get drop down player 2's value, we can store getCharacter2 in character2. So now what we have is we have character class for the selection on the left and a character class for the selection on the right. And from these, we can then display the images that we need for each character. So if we look in our canvas, we should have an image for player 1 and an image for player 2. If I can remember where I put it. I'm literally looking at it right there. Did I not call it? Oh, I just called it, yeah, that's bad of me. I called it player 1 and player 2. Really, I should have called it image player 1, so we know it's an image. Because there's a lot of player 1s and player 2s, right? So we need to say what it is. So it's an image of player 1 and it's the image of player 2. So there we go. So now we've got our image of player 1 and image of player 2. We need to reference them. And these are raw image components. So we're going to have image player 1 and image player 2, which I'm going to save to my script. And if I go back to my script and just assign those real quick. There we go. So now all I need to do is I need to say image character 1, image player 1, sorry, dot image, well no, it's not image, it's called texture actually. Texture equals our get character 1, which we got from the name of the Dropbox, and we saved it under image, didn't we? So now we have the texture for player 1 and player 2, and we can show those in the boxes. I only need to call that function once now. So if we play, what should happen now, and I know that was a lot, believe me, I know it was a lot. And you might be thinking, because I know this is what I would have thought.
Assign the texture of character 1 to player 1 and player 2 to show in the boxes.
Already done it. Don't you bully me. Don't you bully me on Christmas Day. Alright, she never lets up. Right. No, it's fine. Yeah, I know if I was watching this, I would have been like, back before I really understood how all this worked, I would have been like, Jesus Christ, why are we making things so much more complicated than they need to be? Why aren't we just like, you know, putting things where they belong? And it's like, okay, the reason why, yes, it's a giant, the thing about object orientation is it's a giant pain in the ass to set up. But it saves you so much time in the long run, especially if you have a lot of things, right? Because what this basically means is, now that this is set up, I could sit and add characters all day long. I could sit and add hundreds of characters and assign images to them, and the system will just know what to do and it'll just work automatically. And so at that point, it becomes really, really useful. And that's kind of what games should be, right? Games should have a lot of variety, a lot of options, you know, lots of whatever it is, artifacts, gear, characters, you know, you should have a lot of stuff. If your game's empty and hardly has anything in it, then people will just get bored and leave, typically. I'm getting a null reference, so let's see. What did I forget to do? Did I forget to do something? Nah. Ah, okay. Okay, so we're getting a null reference exception, which means that our get character 1 returned as null. Okay, so we need to do some debugging and find out what went wrong. So what we can do is we can use Unity's debug.log to find out what this name contains. So we know that we were asked to get a character by name, and we were given a name. My suspicion is that something I've made a mistake somewhere, and that the name is not what I think it is. So I'm just going to say looking for character in my debug, and I'm going to put the name that we're looking for. And in that way, in my debug, before that error occurs, I can see exactly what it's looking for. Now, if it is what I'm expecting it to be, then there's something wrong with my code underneath. So, yeah, there you go. So it's looking for characters 0 and 0. Because it's also it's Paimon and Paimon. Why is it Paimon and Paimon? Didn't we do that already? Didn't we say select value 3, refresh shown value? It could be. I think I know what this is. So it could be that, okay, I'll explain. This is also kind of awkward. Okay, so the way this function refresh shown value will work is it will call a function that's part of the Dropbox class. But the way Unity allocates threads, because it's not really multi-threaded, it's single-threaded. So here's what Unity does. Unity allocates slices of time for each script to run, all within one thread. So what essentially will be happening here is we've told Dropbox 2 to go and change its value. And then we go and we carry on running the rest of our script. But the Dropbox 2 doesn't just change its value as soon as we tell it to change its value. It will queue. It will get an allocated slot of time to run its code, and it hasn't had time to run it yet. This is a bit of a pain in the ass with Unity, to be completely honest. I wish it was multi-threaded, but it's not. Even if it was multi-threaded, it wouldn't know immediately. Like, it takes time to run code, right? So essentially, it's kind of like a race condition in a way. So our code that we're writing is running before anything else gets a chance to run. So we need to give the other function time to complete its task before we get the updated results back from it. So there's two ways you can sort of work around this. You could either wait for that function to do what it needs to do and then run the code later, right? So we put like a small pause and just give it time to go and update itself. Or if we know what the value is going to be ahead of time, we could just like use something else instead of looking at the component that's a little bit slower, right? Instead of sort of trying to read that, because we know that that's going to be out of date kind of thing. It's going to have the old values still in it. Oh, there's a third way we might be able to do this, because I think Dropbox component already has, yes it does, it already has a default value we can set. So let's see if that fixes that actually. So all I'm trying to do now is I want this to say looking for character 0 and character 1. Which is wrong because we want the name, right? But whilst I'm getting that, I can see that that's the other problem we're having, which is it's looking for Paimon and Paimon. It should be Paimon and Momo, right? There we go, 0 and 1. However, it still says Paimon visually, but that's less important, right? Because like the whole code halted because we ran into this problem anyway. Okay, so what's going wrong? So instead of getting .name so value isn't what I thought it was. Value is not the name. Value is the index. But we can use the index to get the name, right? So instead of saying Dropbox .1.value.toString, we want to take the toString off, so we leave it as an integer, and we want to use that integer as an index reference for our characters list. So if we go into characters, we can use square brackets to indicate an index value, and then we'll pass it that integer as the index value, and then we want its name. All right, bit confusing, but basically what we're doing is we're saying go into the list, get this value's index, which was 0 and 1, right? So object index 0, then object index 1, and then get the name property of that value. So now when we run it, it should actually look for the name. We could have had our function drive by values as well. Okay, so now it's saying looking for character Paimon, which is exactly what we want it to do. But straight away, we still get our object out of range reference on line 34. But now we're getting it for character 2 instead of character 1. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit confused. The reason I'm confused is we only received one name search request in get character by name, which was for Paimon. And then we fell out of range for character 2. But we didn't even look for character 2. What? Okay, I'm a little bit confused. Let's run it again. So we go in to get character by name and we look for character Paimon. Okay, no. Okay, right, I see. Okay, so the argument out of range is not happening on the texture assignment. It's happening on the get character by name. So what it's essentially saying is there aren't enough characters in the character list to go and get index 1. Yes, okay. I know why. I'll tell you why. It's because I'm an idiot. I put show images inside the loop, that's why. So we've only actually populated Paimon at this point. I need to put it outside of the loop after the characters are populated. So I was running the function in the wrong place, basically. All right, I'm an idiot. Yeah, be careful with stuff like that. So I hadn't. There we go. Now it's working. Yeah. So basically, I was trying to get the image before I'd finished building the characters list. So, and as you can see, our function works perfectly. We went in, we looked for Paimon, we found Paimon, we put Paimon in the image box. We went and looked for Momo, we found Momo, we put Momo in the character box. Now you'll see that as we change characters here, though, that these images don't change, but that's because we need to do what's called we need like an event handler for changing the Dropbox values, which I'll show you in a little bit. But we probably want to change these names as well, so let's do that. So this would be txt player 1 and txt player 2. So if we go into our characters list, we've already got UI, so we should be able to declare these now. So we want text txt player 1. And txt player 2, which I'll just assign now. Okay. txt player 2, there we go. Give it a quick save. And we want to do a similar thing here, right? So we've got show images. In fact, let's make this a function that just updates the UI altogether, right? Yeah, let's call it update UI instead. Because now we're gonna now we're not just going to update the image, we're also going to update the text beneath it. So it's no longer the function of show image, it's now update the UI. So we're just going to update the name of the function to say what it actually is doing. All right, so we know that we can get the name here, right? So it might be a good idea to do this a little differently now, because we're going to need that name. So rather than refer to this convoluted ass way of doing it, we could just declare the names, right? So what we can do is we can say character name 1 equals, and then we already know how to get that. That is right there. And character name 2 is this one here. So then what we can do is, instead of saying all that, we can just say character name 1 and character name 2, which we will also say for our new function, which is displaying the names of the characters. So we want txt player1.text equals character name 1 and txt player2.text, you guessed that. Give that a save, give it a play, and we should now have yay! Paimon versus Momo. Beautiful. So the only thing that's left now, well, there's two things left for this particular stage, is I want to make it so that as you change the characters, the details change. You get to see the character, because at the moment they don't. And I want to add a random button so that we can just have a random fight between two random characters, so we don't have to think about it. And the random character is going to need to make sure it doesn't try to have Paimon versus Paimon. Unless we want it to do that, but I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. So I probably won't. Alright, so first thing we need to do is an event handler. Now I'm going to get Jibbity to help me with this, because we need to add a listener and I'm not quite sure of the syntax for drop-downs. I could look it up, but I can't be asked. Jibbity will tell me straight away. Okay, how can I handle updating the UI as the drop-downs values are changed? And Jibbity will know straight away. I know how to do it. We add event listeners for them, basically, and then we can have a method that responds to that listener. It's just the syntax is okay. There you go. You see the syntax is a little yeah. So I wouldn't have. It would have took me a while to figure out exactly what the syntax is, because it's a bit of a pain in the ass, this syntax. But stuff like this, Jibbity's great for. So okay. However, it does like Jibbity. I actually want to punch you in the face, because you'll notice that my character's class does not start with a capital C, but it'll change it to a capital C. Right, so this is the main thing that we need is, so I'm just going to add that. In start, we're adding event listeners, right, a delegate called update UI on Dropbox player 1 and drop down. Why do I keep saying Dropbox? It's drop down player 2. And actually it put it just before update UI, which we should probably put it where it put it, just in case it affects things, but I don't think it will. All right, so that's literally all we have to do, because we already have a function that handles that. We just needed to link the event of changing the drop-down values to that function. So now as we change, way, okay, our UI updates. Brilliant. So now we just want a little random opponent button. So let's go make that. So we want a UI legacy button. Yeah, I'll kind of put it in between these two, I guess. And I'm going to go into the button. Just enlarge the font. I'm just going to say random. And I'm going to point to that and that. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker because I don't like my buttons quite that light. All right, and I'm just going to rename this to button random. And we do something similar that we do for the drop boxes. We add an event listener, and then we can have randomized opponents. So the first thing we need to do is declare the button, link the button rather. So we're going to have a public button random. It's some kind of lambda expression. I've added a button for random characters. How do I add the listener? There it is. Oh, it's not. Oh, this one's the one without the lambda. Okay, I'm getting confused. Which one's the one with the lambda again? I don't know. I can't remember now. But there's one that has a lambda. Right, and this one says randomized characters. I was going to do R&D random characters. I'm just going to rename it slightly to be more in line with my naming conventions. All right, so we're now expecting a void, right? Essentially, which is just a function that's called random characters. So I'm going to create that void. There you go. All our errors are now gone. And we can pick random characters for the player. Just out of curiosity, did Jibbity give me that function? Yes. And it, okay, that's quite good. It did think about that as well. It also ensured that the players are not the same. You know what? It saves us doing it. You know what? I will take that. I will take that. Cool. That's pretty cool, actually. So there you go. We've now got a random characters function. I'll just leave that on the screen for a little bit in case you're following along and your Jibbity is not behaving very nicely. So now we just need to assign that button. The nice thing is, because we declared it as a button type, it'll be the only one that exists in the project, so we can just link it like that. Nice and easy. So let's check it. So now as we hit the random button, we should get, yay, randomized characters. Okay, so now the final thing that we need is a start fight button so that we can begin our battle to the death. To the death! To the death. So I'm just going to copy the random button so that it's visually similar and then sized and everything. And I'm going to put it down here. Make it a little bit bigger because it's like the main button. It's the main event. And we'll call this button start. And we're just going to say start fight. Okay. I might make it bold as well. Start fight. Oh, look at that. Oh, that means business, that does. That looks good to me. Block capitals as well. You know it's serious when it's in block capitals. Alright, so as you can imagine, we're going to do the same thing we did for our button random. I'm going to declare it as a button. I'm going to do a button start. We can link that in the inspector. In fact, let's do it now before I forget, because I always forget to link these frickin' things. For some reason it went off. There we go, button start. We want the listener for the button, but this time we're going to give it a different function name. So instead of button random, we want button start, on click, add listener, start fight. So I'm going to make a void start fight. It's case sensitive, so we need to get that bit right. There we go. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to have a separate window that handles the fight itself. Am I though? Let me think about this. It's not really that complicated of a program. Death by Christmas. Oh my god, I'm getting actually attacked by my Christmas cards. Death by Christmas. Actually, death by Christmas is about to occur when I eat my turkey soon. That will be the true death by Christmas. Alright, okay. How dare I stretch? How dare I take a break? Back to work, now. Psh. I just need Catwoman sat next to me so she can whip me. Ooh. That sounds quite nice, actually. Alright, okay. So, I don't know yet. We could probably run it all in the same script, really. Do we need a separate window? Because we already have... Okay. Let's think about what we need. Let's think about what we need. So what we need is we need two animation controllers is the first thing I think we need. So I'm going to go into my UI and I'm going to create an animation controller, and I'm going to call it player 1. I'm going to duplicate that and I'm going to call it player 2. And then on the image for player 1 and player 2, I'm going to add an animator. I'm going to assign player 1's animation controller to player 1, player 2's animation controller to player 2. And then in our animator, if you're new and you're following along and you don't have the animator window open, you just go to Window, Animation, Animator. And in these tabs you can sort of move them around. I think it shows up down here or something or whatever, but you can move these around. And I like to keep mine there. So what this is it's an animation state machine. What the hell does that mean? Well, it lets you transition between animations, basically. But we don't need to worry too much about this because it's going to be, for the most part, pretty straightforward. So the first thing to do is to visualize in your mind what it is you want to see. So I don't want this to be turn-based because I feel like turn-based is a little unfair because whoever gets to go first has a massive advantage, right? So I want them to hit each other at the same time. So visually what I want to see is I want to see player 1's image charge towards player 2 and player 2's image charge towards player 1, so they kind of crash in the middle, right? And then maybe like shake a little bit. And we're going to display damage numbers at the same time on the screen. These characters also need health bars as well and stuff. But let's do the animation first. So if I hit create, I can create an animation for player 1. So essentially they're going to have two animation states for now at least. Let's just do P1. we're going to have player 1 idle, player 2 idle, player 1 attack, and player 2 attack. So P1 idle, I'm just going to save, and here's a little trick you can do. What I want player 1 idle to do is to basically, we could make it kind of jump up and down as if it's like, you know when like in Street Fighter or whatever, they kind of bounce up and down. We could make them do that. You know what? Let's do that. It's fun. All right. So in that case, what I want to do, make sure this record button is active because that means we're recording keyframes. And then I just kind of want to, right, you'll see position Y went from 0 to 8. But if we really want this thing to be accurate, just stick it back to 0. And you might think, well, why the hell did you move it to 8 and just to put it back to 0 again? And the reason why is this animation thing only records a keyframe when a value changes. So it was to force a keyframe for it. And you'll see here that in our animator, we have a keyframe now for position. So that's just exactly where it's been all day long, all day so far. So there's nothing like fantastically amazing about that. But what it now allows me to do is scrub the timeline along a little bit, and we'll just move it up. And again, if we want them both to be kind of the same, we should pay attention to the values that we get. So that's 5. Looking on the screen, I think like about 19 seems about right. So it's going to move up to 19. If we highlight with the square select, and since we're at 20, let's go to 40.
Why did the computer go to the doctor?
And we're
Because
just
it
going
had
to
a virus.
And we're just going to paste. So what we essentially do is we start from 0, we go up to 19, and then we go back down to 0. And this should loop quite nicely. There you go. So they're kind of jumping up and down. So I'm quite happy with that. So now we need to remember what we did for player 1 and do the same for player 2. So we took 40 milliseconds to go up to 19, and then we went back down to 0. So I'm going to go and click player 2's image now, create P2 idle. I'm going to do exactly the same as what we just did. So we're going to move it up, set it back to 0, just so we get a keyframe. We're going to go to 20. Now we know we're going up to 19. I'm just going to type it in directly. We got our second keyframe. I'm going to go and get our first keyframe, give it to 40 milliseconds, and hit play. Okay. Now, the only thing about this is, because I know what will happen. What will happen is we'll see this. Watch my hands. I think that's a little bit boring. I think it would be better if they did this. Right? So they're like opposite to each other. So as one goes up, one goes down. As the other one goes up, the other one goes down. I think that just looks a lot better. Otherwise, they like just kind of look like they're attached and they're the same thing, essentially. So if we're doing that, we obviously just want to invert our numbers. So instead of starting at 0 and going to 19, we should start at 19, go back down to 0, and then end at 19. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to start at 19. I can hit this button here, which takes us to our next keyframe. Our next keyframe I'm going to put in 0, hit it again, and I'm going to bring it back to 19. So it'll look the same when we look at the single entity, but when we play them together now, and just check our animator, we should see now that our idle animation is our default animation. That's what this little orange node means. So if I hit save and hit play, what we should get now is these images just bouncing up and down. Yeah, and as you can see, they're kind of opposite to each other. Now, to be honest, I don't want it to do that while you're selecting characters. I only want it to do that when they start fighting. So, because we don't have a static, there's a few ways we can go about doing this. Let me just think this through. Because what we could do, just to cheat, is we could turn their animators off so that when we hit play, they stay still because they don't play the animation because their animators aren't on. And then when we're ready to fight, we just turn those animators on and then they start bouncing and fighting. the downside of that is that's hard to it's hard to get them back to that off state if we want to allow multiple fights, right? So if we want Paimon versus Momo for our first fight, and then when that ends, we want to go and pit Placilia against Abby or whatever, then getting it back to the static state is going to be difficult. We can do it by turning the animators off, but the odds are that they're going to be misaligned and they're going to stay misaligned. So really, let's do this properly. What we really need to do in that case is we need an off animation as well, right? So idle is like fight idle, and off is going to be like, or we could even call it select, right? P1 select, P2 select. Yeah, that makes more sense. Let's do that. So if I click this here, I can create a new clip. So P1 idle, I'm just going to call P1 select. So this animation is essentially, it's just going to stay still at 0. So I'm hitting my record, I'm typing 1 in Y, and I'm putting it back to 0. Because that forces it to put a keyframe in, otherwise we don't get an animation. I know it's a pain in the ass, but that's just the way it works. So now we've got a P1 select animation, which doesn't actually do anything, but that's good. And then I want to do the same thing for P2. So I'm going to hit record, bring it up to 1, put it back down to 0, so that we've got our keyframe, and now we've got a P2 select. What I also need to do is I need to make sure that P1 select and P2 select is our default animation, and not the one that we had, idle. So if I right click on select, I can make it orange and say set as layer default. I need to do that on both. There we go. I need to do it on both player 1 and player 2. So now player 1 and player 2 both have select as their default animation, and they have a P1 idle and a P2 idle. And there's quite a few ways we can get this to work. I'll have a think about it. I don't think we need transitions for this. I really don't. I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible. Okay, so now we need our attack animation. So let's go into image player 1 and create a new animation. So we want P1 attack. Right, so again, don't forget we want our clever little keyframe to be exactly where it starts from. So I'm just going to change Y from 1 back down to 0 so we get that keyframe. I'm going to take it to like 30, maybe 40. Let's do it to 40. And what I essentially want to do is I want to drag the animation, and we can see where the middle is from that little canvas thing. They need to butt heads, right? So I want them to sort of smack into each other. So player 1 needs to come up to here so that player 2 can come up to there, and they'll kind of smack each other. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then at 1 second or whatever, we can. Yeah, it's probably going to look better, I think, if they hit each other quickly and then like retract back slower, because that's going to make more sense, right? So I'm actually going to move my keyframe to 20 when it hits, and I'm going to take all the way to 1 second to come back, right? So if we watch that, right, it's quite slow. It doesn't look very aggressive. It's very slow. So we can change that. Normally I would suggest using this, right? Because this basically lets you change how much time the whole animation changes. The reason I'm not going to do that is because I want them to be perfectly lined up with each other. So I'm actually going to put the nodes at specific intervals. So instead of taking 10 seconds, let's make it take 20 milliseconds. Let's make it take, blah, can't even speak. I'm going to take it to 10 and 40, and let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's much better. And we could make like a sound effect or something and maybe do like a whammer Batman, you know, the Batman comic book thing. Or something, whatever we want, right? For now, we just kind of want to make sure that the images hit each other and then retract back. So we need to memorize this and make sure we do the same thing for player 2. So we want to go from 0 in 10 milliseconds. We want to go up to the opposite player, and then we want to retract back all the way to 40. So let's go and do P2 attack and do the opposite. Keyframe 1, 0, 10 milliseconds. Wait, I'm on player. Okay, I just made a I made a P2 attack animation against player 1. So I'm just going to delete that. I was still on player 1. My bad. Alright, yeah, make sure you're on the right object. So P2 attack on P2 this time. Send it to 1. Send it back down to 0. We've got our keyframe, 10 milliseconds. Bring it to the middle. So they hit. Take it to 40 milliseconds. Grab the original keyframe, because I didn't memorize what the position was, and then take it back to its original position by pasting it in. And this does the opposite. Okay, so we should see, if all is well, we should see for player 1's animation, yeah, it's got P2 attack in player 1 still. It should have deleted that when I deleted the animation, but it didn't. Not Unity. Okay, whatever. I've just manually deleted it. So just make sure that P1 select, P1 attack, and P1 idle are in P1. And P2 select, P2 idle, and P2 attack are in P2. That's all you need to worry about for now. Give it a save. All right. Okay. Okay. We don't need that debug. That's working, so I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm also just going to fill my vape up a little bit. It's taken way longer than I thought it would. Okay, so the next thing I think we need is health bars. So we can see how much health our characters have. What I'm actually going to do as well is I'm going to create an empty game object on our canvas called Fight UI, just so that I can put anything that wants to be hidden in the main menu. I can turn that off and everything will go off with it. So for our health bar, we're going to use something called a filled image, which, little heads up, only works with the image component and not the raw image component, which is what I usually use. I don't know why, it just does. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make a container for the health bar, so we can sort of see where it's going to go. I'm just going to make it black. And this is going to be the background. So this is going to be like the empty section. So this is P1. I'm going to do HB for health bar. I will type health. And this is essentially health off. So I'm going to call it health 0. And then we're going to have a health on, which is going to be health 1. So I'm going to duplicate that and call it P2 health 0 and put it on the opposite side. Okay, so now we have essentially kind of like a container for the health bars. I'm just going to zoom in here so we can see better. Okay, so if we duplicate this and pick a color like green is often good for the health. The first thing I want to do is just kind of make it a little bit smaller, because I think it's better when you can see where it goes from and to. Right, you can kind of see where it starts and ends. All right, that looks great to me, size-wise. And then what we need to do, this is a little bit weird, but you need an image in there as a sprite for this to work. So I'm just going to make a new image, 32 by 32. It's completely white. And I'm going to save it in UI. I'm just going to call it white, because that's what it is. So what we do is we assign that as a sprite. I think we need to actually set it up as a sprite first. Okay, we can just assign it directly. That's quite cool. Okay, so we need to assign it as a sprite, and then we need to change it from image type simple to image type filled. And then you'll see it says radial 360, but we want it to be horizontal, so pick horizontal. And we can say whether we want it from left to right or right to left. We want it from left to right. We can test it by moving this fill amount along. So now we can see what it looks like at halfway, full, empty, or anywhere in between. So that's correct. That's kind of what we want. We could also give this like a gradient or whatever if we wanted to, so it's not quite so plain and boring, but for this project, it's fine. So I'm just going to call that P1 health 1. I'm going to duplicate it for P2. P2 health 1. And move this one over to the other side. Looking good. All right, so now we've got health bars. Right. So I'm going to assign those two images. It's fine. The first thing I'm going to assign actually is the container, because we want to be able to turn the fight UI on and off. So I'm just going to declare fight UI as a game object. I'm going to declare an image component of P1 health. And I'm going to declare an image component of P2 health. And the reason I'm not making a distinction between health 0 and 1 is because we don't really care about 0. It's just a background. We don't do anything with it. And we turn it off with the parent, so it doesn't really matter. So we're going to assign fight UI, which is the container. We're going to assign
Sunday
P1
asks,
health 1.
hey, do you know any Julia?
Any Julia? No, I can't say I do, to be honest. Are we talking about a character, or are we talking about a real person? I don't really know either.
The language.
Oh, the language. No, I've now that you mention it, maybe I have heard of it, but no, I don't. I'm certainly not familiar with that. Is it like a database thing? Maybe. Am I right about that? I might be wrong about that. Okay, so we have health 1, health 2, well, player 1 and player 2 health. And did I assign both those? I think I did. Yep, I assigned both those. So now we have access to those health bars. So the first thing we're going to do when we start a fight is we're going to turn that fight UI on. Okay, there's something else we need to do as well. We need to go in and add system collections so that we have access to something called coroutines. Now what coroutines are is they basically create new allocation, like new time allocations within your code. So you can say, I want to do this thing, but I want to like, you can basically pause and you can run it over the top of other code. It basically says, okay, I want some time allocated for this code, but I want it to be separate from the main block of code, basically. So we're going to change our start fight to a coroutine by changing it from a void to an I enumerator. And you're going to see an error saying it doesn't return anything. What does that mean? A coroutine needs to return something, even if it's just null. So for now, just type yield return null, and that will make it return nothing. But yeah, I don't know why they're set up like that, but they are. Ooh, I don't know if we can use them as listen responders though. Okay. I'm going to call this coroutine battle just to be safe. We're going to keep our start fight void, and within the start fight, we're just going to start coroutine battle. Yeah?
I've done a starter today, Colin, because I can't be rather than big. You have enough with
Oh, yeah, I want one, yeah.
I mean, I've got plenty of fish and stuff in there if I wanted to do one, but
yeah,
I haven't bothered
good
today.
Yeah, I'm good.
I might do one for New Year's Day, ask you what you want, you know, maybe a little bit of I don't know, little mini pizzas or something, you know.
Yeah, see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll see what we do like.
Alright. So start fight is going to call the coroutine of battle, and we're going to say fight UI set active to true, and okay, there's something else we need to do as well. Right, so we have these values which are kind of like values about the character, right? Like how much HP does Momo have? He has 9,000 HP because he has 9 lives because he's a cat. That was the joke, right? But as he's being attacked and as the battle goes on, that number's going to decrease, right? But we still need to know what the original value was so that we can represent his health bar as a percentage, for example. So we need a secondary HP amount. Like we need like a right now HP amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a private integer of player 1 current HP and a private integer of player 2 current HP. And as we begin our battle, we're going to say player 1 current HP equals okay, we need to get our characters. The first thing we need to do is get our characters. Right, so we click the start button. Yeah, there's also some other things we need to do as well. We need to hide some of the UI elements as well. So the first thing we need to do is get our characters by name, right? And that's basically this function here. So I'm just going to copy and paste it in. Okay, and then player 1 current HP is get character 1 dot HP. Player 2 current HP is going to be obviously get character 2's HP. So at the start of the battle, we inherit the HP value for the current HP from whatever the character's HP pool starts at. Okay. We also want to start hiding some UI elements. Okay, a good way of doing that, I think, for this, is just to make a list. So I'm going to do a public list that I can set in the inspector, and I'm just going to call it menu hide. Shit. These are game objects called menu hide. Okay, and then down in my start fight, in my battle coroutine, what I can do is I can say for each game object, get object in menu hide, we can say get object set active to false. I'm also, am I? No, hold off for a sec. We'll leave it for now. We'll leave it for now. Okay, so in the inspector, I'm going to go and set up what I want to hide in the UI. So if I go to my characters, I want to hide that button, both drop boxes.
Why did the developer go broke? Because they used up all their assets.
Can you listen to you? Because you existed. We don't need the verses either, so that's 5 objects. Okay, so text verses wants to be hidden. We need to keep our images. We need to keep our text player 1 and 2. We want to get rid of button start. We want to get rid of button random. Dropbox 1. Dropbox 2. There we go. Okay, so let's press play and make sure everything we've set up so far is working. Okay, Paimon versus Momo. Start fight. What should happen at the moment, not a lot to be honest, but at the moment, oh, the health bars want to stay off as well. Oh, you know what? It's because I left them on. There we go. They should be left off. So the health bars should show up when we click start fight. Versus should disappear and all this top stuff should disappear. Perfect. Okay. We also need to go into our like bouncy fight animations, right? Right, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to set up an update. I like to have it under start, so we'll put it under start. Because update calls on every frame, so it's going to update everything in real time. So what I'm going to do in update is I'm going to say... This is my thinking phase. We need to work out what percentage of health the character has from their total health. So, but that's kind of hard to do in update, to be completely honest. Okay. The reason why... Okay, the reason why is because we can't access anything that's declared in the coroutine of battle from outside of itself. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, as we declare these characters here, they're declared within this function here, so we can't access them from outside of that function. So the way we solve that problem is we need to declare them in the main structure. So what we can do is we can say we want two private characters which is P1 character and P2 character. We'll change it, instead of saying declare character, we're going to say P1 character equals P2 character equals. So we now want to say P1, P2 character here. And the reason why we're doing that is in update, we can say if player one character is not null, meaning we have an active character currently in battle, then we want to try and update this health bar. Because if we try and update the health bar before we have a character, we'll get null references all over the place because we haven't assigned one. So we want to make sure one is assigned, and if one is assigned, then we can do our calculation. So the first thing we do is we can say int player one max health wants to equal P1 character dot HP. We want an int of P2 max health wants to equal P2 character dot HP. We want an int of P1 now health, which is P1 current HP, and an int of P2 now health equals P2 current HP. Okay. So I can never quite remember what the formula is. I think it's just divide. Yeah, I think it's just divide now by the max. Okay, I think it is. So we should have P1 current P1 health, or what did I call it? Yeah, it is P1 health and P2 health. But to be honest, I think that should be image P1 health and image P2 health. Okay. And what we want to access is something called the fill amount, and that wants to be P1 health divided by P1 max health. But I need to cast that as a float specifically. So I'm going to ask Jibity to help me with that because I can't remember what the syntax is exactly off the top of my head. So obviously make sure we're working with P2 stats on player 2. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly ask, how can I ensure the calculation is returned as a float? Oh, okay, we can literally just say float in brackets before the calculation. Okay. That's cool. What is happening? Right, there we go. All right. The next thing I also want to do, there's a few ways of doing this. We could use an animation transition, but I'm actually not going to do that. Okay. So when we start the battle, I want them to go into the fight idle animation, right? So I have a condition that I need to be looping within, and the condition is that both players' health is above 0. So my while wants to say while P1 current HP and P2 current HP. No, we don't do it like that. We do the condition as well. So I want to say, yeah, there we go. It's like that. So I want to say while player 1 current HP is greater than 0 and player 2's current HP is greater than 0, we're going to keep battling it out. So here's what I need to do. I need to say player 1. Now we need the image component. So image player 1 get components animator dot play, and this is where I need to get the exact name of the animation. Now I believe it was P1 idle, but we can check it in here. Yeah, it's either P1 idle or P2 idle. Is that a small I? Yeah. Yeah, that should have been a capital I, because that's how I normally do things. For P1 it is a capital I. For P2 it's not a capital I. It's very naughty of me. So I'm just going to change that to a capital I. So we're consistent. Why aren't you doing it? There we go. H. Okay, capital I. Okay. P2 idle. Okay, beautiful. So, whilst both players have health, we are going to play the animation of idle. We're going to wait maybe 2 seconds. Yield, return, new, wait 4 seconds, 2. And then we want to attack. So we're going to call play animation, player 1, attack, player 2, attack. Okay. Then we want to give the animation time before the attack occurs, and we know exactly how long it takes because we set it up in our animator and we made sure they were both the same. So we can click our animation down to attack, and they hit each other at exactly 10 milliseconds. So I'm going to yield, return, new, wait for seconds, 0.1 floaty points of seconds, which basically means 10% of a second, which is 10 milliseconds. Okay. Then we calculate the damage, display the damage, take the damage off the health. So, I've never really done this before, so I might need to think about this for a second. Because it can work, it obviously can work however we set it up to work. Originally, when I was thinking about this morning, I was like, I'll just make it so that, like, you know, we'll take however much defense. If you have 20 defense and you attack 200, then only 180 attack reaches because 20 of it was blocked by defense. Except I kind of screwed that up because I wanted Paimon to have a ton of defense. So she has like 9,000 defense, but she only attacks for 32. So the attacks are kind of like in the, you know, less than 100 range, but the defenses are kind of like in the thousands, at least for Paimon they are. I kind of had to give Paimon that much defense because she has like 9 times less health than Momo, and I didn't want her to die straight away. So I can't do that calculation for defense. Defense is going to need to work differently to that. Not sure how it's going to work yet. Unless I just correct those. I guess I could correct those. Because I don't want to make things too complicated for myself. So what kind of attack values are we looking at here? We're looking at 69, 42, 56, 32. So we're in the range of like 32 up to 69. So we can't have defense any higher than 32, really. Otherwise, Paimon just wouldn't be able to do any damage to that person. So our damage, our defense wants to be somewhere between 0 and 30, I think. So if we want Paimon to have the most defense, we'll give her 30. Momo, we want him to have a lot less defense, so I'll give him like 3. Abby's probably even less. Let's give him 2. And Placidia will give like 26. There. Oh shit! I put it in the wrong. Oops. There we go. Okay, and we will work. We will make it work that way. Okay. What I also need is I need to add an element now so we can display how much damage was actually dealt. So this all disappears when they fight. So we'll show the damage like up here and we'll like animate it and stuff. So I need a... We'll grab the names because they're kind of good to use as like templates. So I'm just going to duplicate these names, drop them onto Fight UI, and we'll do TXT damage 1 and TXT damage 2. And we'll move those up here. I think it might also be fun to kind of rotate them a little bit as well. So we have like this one. So let me just think about this. What are we actually calculating? We're calculating the amount of... Are we calculating the damage that was received? Are we calculating the damage? So like, because normally in these games, I need to think about this. Like normally, okay, if I shoot a Hilichurl in Genshin Impact, the damage I cause to that Hilichurl is showed on the Hilichurl. And if somebody hits me, my health bar just goes down. So this should probably work in a similar way, I think. But I feel like that's going to be confusing because they're hitting each other at the same time. So we show... So if a number comes up above Paimon, that's how much damage Momo did to her. Right? But for some reason, with this simulator, I feel like it would make more sense to show the damage Paimon did above Paimon and the damage Momo did above Momo. Because that just kind of makes more sense. I mean, it's dead easy to change, right? Because... I could just literally swap them round. So I'm going to do it the way I think it should work. The way I think it should work is I should show the damage Paimon did above Paimon and the damage Momo did above Momo, because the health bar's going to change anyway to reflect how much damage was received. Otherwise, it's like both things are just showing you the damage that was received, you know what I mean? Which is essentially what they're doing anyway, but I don't know. In my brain, I feel like it would look better and work better and make more sense if the damage the character does is displayed above the character rather than on the character's opponent. Because I think that would get confusing. Okay. So if Paimon flashes 500 as they hit each other, then that means Paimon dealt 500 damage. And if Momo flashes 600, it meant Momo dealt 600 damage. Yeah, so I'm going to make this damage dealt rather than damage received, because damage received is already going to be reflected in the health bar anyway. So that's kind of the opposite to the way it works in every other game, to be honest. Like Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact and stuff like that. But this isn't, you know, it's a completely different setup. And I just think it makes more sense to do it that way. Alright, let's go with that. So now we need to reference the damage. Hang on a minute. I forgot to reference these. Image P1 health is health 1. P2 health is P2 health 1. There's our menu hides, and now I need to reference the damage text units, objects, whatever. So txt damage 1 text txt damage 2. Yeah, so I'm going to show the damage that was dealt in damage 1 and damage 2. Okay, so here's where we calculate damage. So let's take a look at one of our characters. Right, so HP doesn't matter, right? HP is just how much damage they can take and receive before they die. Attack matters. The opposite character's defense matters, and crit rate and crit damage matters. Okay, so I think the first thing we should do is roll to see if this is going to be a crit hit or not, right? So okay, so we want to do int roll crit equals random dot range, and we need a number between 0 and 100, right? Because the percentage chance of hitting crit still lies within the 0 to 100 range. So we can say roll crit equals random dot range, roll me a number between 0 and 100. If the number is within the crit rate range, then we get a crit. If it's outside of the crit rate range, then we don't. Okay. So we should probably start by doing a bool You know what? This is actually the better way to do this, because this is going to be quite a complicated thing, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass to invert it all for the other attack. So I think it's better if we do a function for it. So I'm going to do a void. Well, let's make it an int, right? It's a function that returns an integer, and the integer it returns is the amount of damage, right? So I'm going to call this function calculate damage, and I'm going to take a character of dealer and a character of receiver. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is declare the damage, which we'll set to 0, and return that damage. Okay, so we do our crit roll. Right. Before we do that, we set up a bool. So we set up a bool that says is crit equals false. We do our crit roll, and then we say if dealer crit rate is less than or equal to roll crit, then is crit equals true. Okay. So now we calculate normal damage and crit damage, and we nest those out because they're both going to be very different from each other. So let's start with if is not crit and then we'll nest out an else. Right, so for normal damage, we want to say it's as simple as damage equals attack minus opponent defense. So damage equals dealer attack minus receiver defense. Else damage equals dealer attack plus dealer, that's times hang on, 32% crit damage means we want an additional 32%. So it's dealer attack plus dealer attack times crit damage. But it's a floating value rather than as a percentage. So it wants to be... Okay, I might need Jibity to help me with this, because how do I turn 32 into 0.32? Yeah. Dealer attack plus dealer attack times dealer.crit damage. Cannot implicitly convert float to int. True. So we need to get a float calc damage, which wants to equal our crit damage. And then our float can be, well, call it crit damage then. Crit damage. Dealer attack plus crit damage. Which needs to be converted back into an integer 32. There we go. That's still not correct. The reason why, and I'm gonna ask Jibity to help me with this. Okay. I have stored crit damage as a percentage. E.g. 30 is 30% extra damage for a crit hit. My calculation needs to convert that into 0.32. How can I do that? I don't know why I said 0.32, I meant 0.30. To convert the percentage value of crit damage, e.g. 30, into a decimal number, simply divide it by 100. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense actually. Okay. Alright, there we go. So now I can say P1...
Time for a joke.
You're a joke.
What does a baby computer call his father? Data. LOL.
That doesn't work with an English accent. Because it's data. Data is supposed to be data. Because America says data. But when you say data as an English chick, the joke doesn't make sense anymore. Just go to bed and shut up. Right, okay. Okay, so we need P1, P2 damage. So basically we can just invert them, right? So we can say integer P1 damage equals calc damage, and then we send P1 character, P2 character, and then we invert that for P2 damage. Also, I never minus defense off that, did I? So we'll say damage equals damage minus receiver defense. There we go. Okay, so now we've got P1's and P2's damage. Actually, we forgot to invert that. Player 2 dealing damage to player 1. And then we can do our txt damage1.text equals P1 damage to string, and text damage2.text equals P2 damage to string. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to activate those as game objects because I'm going to add an animation to them. So I can say game object set active to false and then set active to true. That'll just turn it off and turn it back on again basically. That wants to be 2. Alrighty. So that should keep happening until one of the characters dies. And then we know that by the time we get down to this, part in the code, one of the characters would have died. So I can say if P1 current HP is equal to or less than 0, then image player 1 set active to false. Game objects set active to false. Else it's the opposite. P2 set active to false. And we'll just turn off the image for now to show that they're dead. Alright. Need to see if all that works. But actually, there's one other thing I need to do. I need to create an animation controller for player 1 and player 2 damage. So we're going to do an animation controller. P1 damage. Duplicate that for P2 damage. Go to my damage text objects, add an animator, assign P1 damage. Actually, you know what? No, they're going to be the same because I'm going to zoom them anyway. So I don't need P1 damage, P2 damage. I just need a P damage. P damage. And I'm going to give them both the same P damage animation controller because they don't need separate animations this time, because like before they were going in opposite directions, but this time they're just going to zoom in the same anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm going to create a new animation, and this is going to be a show damage. And I'm going to start by zooming it really small. And we're going to make it zoom up like that. Yeah?
Well, surprise, surprise, no word from Jason.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
He's a bloody waste of space, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to say it about my own son, and it's really upsetting for me, but...
Right, sorry about that. Right, that animation doesn't loop, so we need to make sure that we set that so that it doesn't loop. Show damage. Actually, to be fair, neither does the attack animations either. So the attack animation for P2 does not loop, and the attack animation for P1 does not loop. Okay. Alright, let's test all of that. We need TXT1 damage, TXT2 damage. You can add sound effects and stuff as well. And we're almost done, to be honest. Yeah, so okay, so you might be thinking, well, we never played that animation, but we don't need to. The reason why is because it's set as a layer default, we play the animation as it becomes active, basically. So because I turned the game object off and on as the damage was received, that will let us do it. Why can't we? Can we not turn off? I want to get rid of this display one, no cameras rendering, because it kind of ruins everything. I could just, even though I don't really need one, I could just add a camera and it makes that go away. I don't need a camera, but it makes that go away at least. Alright, so let's try it. Start fight, let's see what we get. Okay, for some reason only Momo's damage is being displayed. And I suppose it's a little boring because he's always doing the exact same damage. So we might want to throw some RNG in there. Oh, I also forgot to update the... I forgot to update the health. Okay, so we've got a couple of issues with that. Oh, okay, that's why. Yeah, I turned 1 off and on, but it's actually 1 and 2 we want to turn off and on. There we go. Yeah, and I also want to update to say current health. So P1 current health, P1 current HP equals P1 current HP minus P1 damage, and P2 current HP equals P2 current HP minus P2 damage. No, because P1 damage, no, it's the other way around, because player 2's damage is the damage they do to player 1, so we want to take P2 damage off player 1's health and player 1's damage off player 2's health, so it's actually the other way around. Alright, yeah, that should be better now. Alright, I think we're almost done. They should be able to fight to the death now. I know that says name, but we can just make that empty. There we go, 39, 26. We haven't had any crits yet. I could make the text a different color if it's a crit. They don't really look like they're hitting each other, do they? I think it's because we don't give it time. We don't give the animation time to retract before we go back into. Yeah, I think that's why that's happening. There you go. Paimon died. I mean, it's working. Okay, yeah, no, we need to. It's because we need to give it a little bit of time. So we need to yield return new, wait for seconds 1. I think it's actually 0.5 is all we need for it to give it time to finish its thing. Stop buzzing, speaker. You're so annoying. It would also be nice to play like a little sound effect, like a punch or something. Yeah, I didn't ever see any crits there. Okay, so because I never saw any crits, we know we're doing Paimon versus Momo. Let's make both of their crit rate 50%. Because they are quite low, right? Maybe they didn't get any crits. But if we set it to 50%, we should see, you know, half the time they should do more damage, right? Okay, 57. Okay, 57 is his crit. He normally does 26. Paimon's doing 29. Okay, 39. Paimon only does 39 when she crits. I gave Momo way too much health. But the joke was that he has 9 lives, right? So, like, I think this answers our question. No, I think Momo would win very easily in a fight against Paimon. I think that makes sense, though, because Paimon's a little useless little nobody. So there you go. We've kind of got our. Yeah, I think when it's a crit. Okay, so a couple of little improvements. So let's do a couple of things. Like, first of all, we need to change our text damage so that it doesn't say "ma'am" when it first shows up. We could do with a sound effect that plays as they sort of hit each other. So let's add a game object that has a sound effect on it. So I'm just going to do punch sound effect. I'm going to give it an audio source. Let's quickly go onto YouTube and get one of those. This has, is it blocking ads? I know this was having issues before, but they might have fixed it. I think they fixed it. That's quite funny. Oh my god, it's my video. Oh. Oh, hey, that thumbnail's pretty good actually. Let's get that sound effect. Let's just remind me later. I'm trying to do this. Punch sound effects. We go into my downloads. There it is. It's got like 56 seconds of silence for some reason. Alright, there we go. Punch sound effect. Save it in our I'll stick it in assets. Let's copy this, otherwise it'll take me forever to find. There we go. Punch sound effect is fine. There we go. Leave it on play on awake. Priority pretty high. Volume 1. That's fine. And then we just need to link that to characters as a game object. Punch sound. So as they hit, we want punch sound game it's already a game object. Set active to false, and then set active to true, so that we turn it off and then on. And what else do we need? If it's crit, yeah, if it's crit, so we can set this up. I'll show you something else which is quite cool. So if we declare two public, so we know that white is like normal damage, right? But what we can actually do is we can declare colors in the inspector. So we can say color 32, attack normal, public color 32, attack crit. And if we pick those in the inspector, attack normal could be white, for example, and attack crit could be like a pink. Give it a bit of a ready color, I guess. There we go. Then what we can do is when we display our text, we can set the color on whether it was a crit or not. So so the way to do this, because we calculate the damage and we decide whether it's a crit or not inside this function, we would need to change the color in here. So we can say if it's not a crit, this is where it's a crit, right? So if it's not a crit, we want to say, oh, this is kind of awkward. Dealer and receiver. Because we need to figure out which one is player 1 and which one is player 2. We can't return. Actually, no, it's not that complicated. Because all we need to do is we need to say if dealer is player 1 character, then we know that it's player 1 that dealt the crit, else it's player 2. So if it's player 1 that dealt the crit, then we want txt damage 1 dot color equals I didn't define it as a color, did I? I called it attack crit. Else txt damage 2 color is attack crit. And then by default, as we enter this function, we should always reset that. So we'll just say 1 and 2 color is attack normal. So that gets overwritten. only when it's a crit. There we go. Alright, so that should give us the changes that I wanted. So we should get a punch sound effect now. And when it crits, it should go like pink. I'll turn these down. I don't think Paimon would crit 50% of the time. Alright, let's give her like 30% crit rate. Momo, maybe like... We'll make him like 2% crit rate or something, because to be fair, I feel bad for Paimon. Paimon's losing by like way too much. Maybe Paimon just gets lucky now and again. She does like a shit ton of crit damage. 180% crit damage. I don't know. I feel bad for Paimon. There's no way she can win this fight ever. Oh, Momo crit. Oh my god. Did I leave? How much crit? Wait, why is Momo constantly critting? No, there's no way that's right. He's got 2% crit rate though, right? So why is it saying he's always critting? Okay, there's something seriously wrong here. Something's wrong with this. Text 1 damage color isn't color normal. If it is a crit, is he actually constantly critting? Apparently, yes. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, no, roll crit. If crit rate is less than... It should have been the other way around, I think. Yeah, it should have been if roll crit is less than or equal to deal a crit rate. Yeah, I did it the wrong way around. That's why. Yeah, okay. So a really low crit rate now is actually... It was doing it the opposite way around. It was actually the percentage chance of not critting. Is what was happening. That's why it seemed to be working at 50, because it was 50-50 anyway, right? Okay, so that I actually had it the wrong way around. There we go. So they should only crit like, you know. I mean, Momo's only 2%, so the odds of him getting a crit are pretty low. Paimon's is quite low. It's only 30%. She should be doing like roughly 1 in 3 though. Yeah, she crit there, right? 87 was a crit, but she didn't go pink. Okay, so there's still a problem with that. When Paimon does 87, that's clearly a crit. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I see why. Because what happens is Paimon... Okay, here's what's happening. We're resetting Paimon's colour regardless of whether she's doing the attack or not. So we need that if dealer is P character as well. Yeah, we need to do if dealer is P1 character, then reset P1's damage. Else reset P2's damage. Otherwise, we're resetting Paimon's crit color when we calculate Momo's damage, even if she crit, because we set it up that way. But now it should be set up to not do that. Okay, so we should see Paimon crit now. I mean, we were seeing a crit, but she wasn't going pink. There we go. This is great. It's taken quite a long time.
Pika says, We know that Cappy wants Paimon, his favorite mascot, to win over Momo.
Hey, I am God. I can make it happen. Yeah, I probably do like Paimon more than Momo, but I don't know. It's still early days for Momo. Yeah, Momo's fine, but yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the hatred for Paimon. I actually like Paimon. I know a lot of people don't like her, and maybe that gives me extra. I don't know. I always like the underdogs. You know what I mean? It's always like. So maybe because there's a part of me that feels sorry for her as well, it's like maybe that makes me like her more than I should. Because I'm like, oh, well, she's not that bad. So I kind of feel like extra bad for her. Okay, so let's say Momo only has 900 HP, because 9,000 is ridiculous, right? But the joke was that he has 9 lives because he's a cat. Alright, let's see who wins now. Momo will probably still win because he has more attack. Ooh, I don't know. I gave Paimon a lot of defense though. Yeah, he's only able to do 26 damage to Paimon unless he crits. So even Paimon's base attack is higher now, just because Momo has so little defense.
Pika asks, we all know that you rate Paimon 10 out of 10, but what would you rate Mono out of 10 Cappy?
I don't know if I'd rate a 10 out of 10. I wouldn't go that far. I'd give her an 8 or a 9. I wouldn't give her 10. I don't know. He's a 6 or a 7 so far. Maybe an 8. I mean, he's miles better than Abby. Abby sucks. Wait, why did Paimon die? What the hell? Okay, I'm glad I tested that now. So I made a mistake. Right, where's my death where the thing is removed? If player 1's current HP is greater than or less than 0, then player 1's... Oh, I said player 1 or player 1. Yeah, that's why. Okay, there we go. That fixes that. Yeah, I said player 1 in both of them. I forgot to change it. Alright, there we go. So there you go. So as you can see, I mean, this is basically how these stat systems work, right? This is a very, very basic version, but it's basically the same concept. Oh, they both crit. They both crit. Oh, Momo crit again. All right, there we go. Now I know you want to see it. Let's do Abby versus Paimon. We'll put Paimon in a different spot this time just to make sure it all still works. It should be fine. Oh, Abby's getting destroyed.
Pika asks, if this project of yours is only a 2v2, then would you be able to swap out Paimon or Momo with a third character like Abby or not?
That's what do you think you're looking at now? We can put any characters we want in here. That's why I designed it this way. Alright, and now let's see Paimon. Now let's see Momo versus Abby. This could be a close one actually. Oh, I don't know. Well, this is close. I think Momo's still got a lot more health than Abby. What did you do this Christmas? And Abby is dead. Alright, I'm sure everybody wants to see this. Paimon versus Placilia. Let's go. Uh-oh. Okay, when Paimon crits, she crits hard. But Placilia's base attack is so much higher. Oh, Placilia's crit's big.
It would be funny if you turned your new project from a 3v3 to a 2v2 and then a 1v1 to decide who will be the overall winner.
I think you just do rounds when it stays on, don't you? You would think I would put that much effort into this project. You're a fool. Right. Yep, so there you go. I mean, there you go. That's pretty much the whole thing. I mean, we could add more characters, but right now I don't really see the point. But yeah, I might put it on the website just for fun. But yeah, there you go. That's basically it. It's done. It is finished. And we could add more sound effects and little special effects and stuff, but like, you know, aside from that, the base, the sort of idea behind it all works and is working as intended. So there you have it. Momo would probably kill Paimon. Would probably win in a fight against Paimon. But Placilia beats them all. And Abby is the weakest. Abby is the worst. But we already knew that. So now you have your answer. And you can make your very own virtual fighting simulator. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go get some Christmas dinner. And enjoy my Christmas. And I hope you also enjoy the rest of your Christmas. I'll probably be on tomorrow at some point. But yeah, I watched Lali's trailer and it's just, I was already going to choose her over Pyro Archon anyway.
Have a nice day, bye.
But yeah, I think the trailer actually just makes me even more convinced of that. So yeah, I was quite happy with that. All right, I will catch you next time. Bye.
Bro_I_no_you_me says, whoa what happenin'?